Hi everybody, Joe Protocol here, back for another video, and in this one I'd like to go over kind of an overview of what goes into a drum group for me. So in the first video I showed you kind of processing the drum group as a whole, or the drum bus as a whole, and in this one I kind of just want to walk you through all the individual elements in a basic overview, just to kind of give you an idea of like what makes up a drum bus. So let's have a look at that now. In this drum track I have 10 different drums, and this drum track I made about a week ago for a kind of typical tech step rolling futuristic sounding drum and bass track. So let's listen to the drum track as a whole. Cool, so there's the whole drum. I've got my processing on from what I had in the first video, but let's go through each individual track now. So starting with the kick, we have, just gonna mute this for a second and come back to this. So here's the kick. So quite a not like a really heavy sounding kick, and I've just got one layer on this one because I want a lot of the energy to come from the breaks and the high end. So I've just got like quite a simple sounding kick here, and on the kick I've just got a little bit of transient shaping just to give it that little bit more attack and a little bit more punch. So here it is without. And with. So not much there, just a little bit of shaping really. I mean, this is kind of what I try and do with a lot of my production, is I find a good source sound to begin with. So I really don't need to add so much processing at the end of it, just a little bit just to enhance it. So let's see what we have next. We have a clap. Now this is quite a thin sounding clap because it works quite well in combination with the next snare channel. So I just have a little bit of low cut on the clap here. And actually it's barely even noticeable. But in combination with the snare, so yeah, I'm using a little bit of processing on the snare once again, and to do that I'm using this plugin from Denise Audio called the Dragonfire. Now this is what we've called a tonal compressor, so it's somewhat different from a parallel compressor, in the sense that it uses more like an EQ style curve to trigger multiple compression types, but they're all the same compressor. Now let's have a little look how that works. So here you have this kind of EQ graph, which is driving, so we have about 235 hertz push into the compressor here, and another one 1.8 kilohertz pushing into the compressor. And we have this push-pull type control in here. So with the push-pull control, you can drive these different frequencies into the compression. And then you have this pull, which is like an attenuation of what's being compressed. So you get that compression sound, and then you back it off a little bit. Let's see how that sounds like. So there are these frequencies being driven into the compressor, and now let's back them off again. Or the best way to work with push-pull is to push into the compressor and then kind of find this midway point. That kind of works best for working with this style of compression. I have an attack here of about 20 milliseconds, just so it gets a nice snap, and then a release of about 70 milliseconds. With a snare like this, it's better to have a relatively quick release. We also have about approximately a 4:1 ratio, and then we can set the threshold. But let's play around with this plugin a little bit and see how it works on the snare. See, that for me is way too much snap, so I just want to kind of catch the peak a little bit just to control it. Something else I have on here is a little bit of clipping. So this is like a clip distortion. Again, that's too much, but just a little bit just gives it the snare a nice little crunch. And then we have our gain compensation here. So that's the snare, but in combination with the clap. Yeah, in combination with the clap, we have a nice sound there. Next up, we have one of 2 breaks. So, yeah, just quite a metallic sounding break. Makes it sound nice and real for me. And when I'm using these low cuts, the Pro Q gives you the choice of 3 different filter types. Now I prefer linear phase because the type of cut is way smoother, and as you see, it doesn't create any additional kind of boost around the point of the cutoff. So let's have a look at that again. So you'll notice this with a lot of EQs. When you introduce a low cut, it will add a little bit of level here around the point of the cutoff. But with the linear phase EQ, it's a much cleaner cut and you don't get that additional boost. I think the disadvantage of using a linear phase style cutoff is that you get that it's kind of way more CPU heavy. So be quite selective about which channels you choose to cut with this type of filter. So here's our next break. This is more of a rougher break, and it's got a lot more movement. So let's hear how that's made up of. So here we have a gate, and for this gate I've chosen the Denise Poulter gate, which is the combination of a gate, some dynamics controls, and a debleeder, which is what's really cool for these breaks because you can debleed off some of that extra roughness from these old crusty breaks, and it just cleans them up a little bit. This isn't really a tutorial about how gates work, but once you set the threshold, everything below the threshold of the gate gets cut off exactly. So I use a gate on a break just to really, I guess, make it sound a little bit more modern, a little bit cleaner, but this can certainly add to the groove a little bit, this gate. But maybe in a different tutorial we'll go into the intricacies of how a plate works. But something that's really important for this this particular drum is the McAtee plugin. Now the McAtee replicates an old Mackie desk, and if you ever listen to Break in the kind of mid-noughties, this guy used the Mackie desk to get a really rough sounding drum break. So let's hear how that sounds. Yeah, so that's McAtee, quite simple. It recreates that classic Mackie desk sound, and actually it's a free plugin, so I'll make sure I include the link below. And then after the McAtee, I've just cleaned up things a little bit with another EQ. So yeah, cutting out that low end just so I get the main kick coming through, and just some other adjustments here just to clean things up a little bit. A crash I will use in almost every track really, because I like the kind of break it introduces to like a next 16 or a next 8 bar. Nothing complex here, just a low cut. So I've chosen to go for the zero latency here. It just works. So no need to add a linear phase because I just don't think it's needed in this example. So just a cowbell because it sounds somewhat organic to me. It sounds a bit more human somehow. So I like to include that. And we got our percussion coming up. Again, you see the gate just cuts off certain things below a certain level. And in this one, I think, you know, for this percussion loop especially, I didn't want everything. I just wanted that kind of ch 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 ch. Again, I enhanced this kind of ch ch sound a little bit on the fab filter. Sounds nice to me. And I've got another plugin here from the same people who make the McAtee. So it's a company called Air Windows. So they're all free, by the way, but you can donate to the person who makes them. And I just wanted to take the sides out because I just wanted it to sound a bit more central. That simple. This is just a mid-side control, but yeah, really, really useful plugin once again. And then we have our first layer of rides. So on this track, I just have a little bit of compression because on the initial loop, which is a loop that I made, I've got a lot of attack on the rides, whereas I really wanted to take that attack out just in order to get that kind of that high end air kind of filled with just this general noise almost. It's more like a noise layer, but because it's a bit more metallic, it's a much better kind of tone for this break. You see in this example, I'm using a quick attack and a quick release. Yeah, I almost don't want it to sound like a ride or a percussion. I just want it to fill that space. So having a quick attack just cuts off those transients and just fills the space a bit better. There we go. Again, the linear phase, a little bit of roll off on the top end because it's maybe a bit sharp. But yeah, just quite a regular sounding hat. Just to, what's this hat doing? It's just a hat. You kind of need one in a drum beat. And at the very beginning, I took off this this plate reverb just because I wanted you to hear the tracks individually without the plate. But I've got, once again, a Denise plate, the Perfect Plate XL, which is a kind of plug-in idea which I had. So we took the Perfect series and kind of duplicated that original idea of having this non-metallic sounding reverb. But with this one, you can actually add resonances in and kind of shape the sound of the plate reverb, so to speak. Once again, this is not really a tutorial dedicated to how a plate works, but the plate reverb is really good, certainly for kick and snare. So if you look here, I've got the clap, which goes to the plate. I've also got the kick that goes to the plate, and the snare which goes to the plate, and the cowbell in this one even goes to the plate. So yeah, let's hear some of these tracks now with the plate on. The plate sound for me is such a beautiful sound for drums. It just makes it sound really rough and kind of organic at the same time. So there's the clap. There's the snare. And there's the kick. So you really want a short tail here because you really want the plate to disappear before the next element comes in. Other than that, a short pre-delay to make it sound a little bit more natural. And because it's on the parallel channel or the return channel, mix at 100%. Again, low cut or high pass filter. Everything below the kind of kick and fundamental of the snare, and also a little bit off the top as well. So let's hear what the whole drum loop sounds like again. So yeah, once again, that was just a kind of quick overview of everything that makes up my drum track. There's not so much. Once again, this is kind of a point I'm trying to get through to you, that I really don't add anything that I don't need and try and get the best possible sound at the source. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. Once again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and I look forward to you in the next video.